Hi folks, this is Ben. I'm adding this at the beginning because for some reason Twitch just screwed up, so there is a bit of a blip at the beginning, but I will be editing forward anyway. This discussion is basically all about me and Jack's theories on what the Robert Pattinson Batman 2021 movie should be all about. We could be completely wrong. This is just us ranting as per usual, and enjoy the video. Right. Anyway, so yes, this is Theorycraft. This is a new setup due to the fact that everything going a bit crazy at the moment. We're having to do it at our respective homes. So we're going to do a bit of a speculation video this week on what little information we've had so far on Robert Pattinson's Batman. Now, for what we've had so far, we've only had confirmation on what the suit looks like, what the Batmobile looks like, and what the Batbike looks like. That's all I know of so far. Unless there's been any other information, that's all I'm going on from today's episode. So between him and me, we're going to rant about Batman and try and figure out what we could get from it as the new movie, whether it be anything interesting or whether it could be a very, very poor taste in Batman. But let's hope this actually works out one way or another. Now, the main thing that I spotted with the Batmobile is the fact that it looks incredibly like the version of the Batmobile from the 80s.
I like kind of the older, like back to basics style.
Yeah, I mean, it looks more like an actual car than it does like a massive tank thing, which,
Yeah,
in my
Batmobile on
opinion,
roids.
well, in my opinion, it kind of makes more sense because the fact that Gotham is a big city, it's not going to have very big roads, is it? It's going to have lots of alleyways, lots of nook and cranny
It's like having a
spaces.
proper sleeker kind of muscle car is like
Exactly.
it's definitely very sensible. I've got no problem with the Batmobile for sure.
No, but from what I've done research on, it also looks very similar to the Batmobile that Jason Todd was known to. Excuse you. Was known to be able to take the wheels off before Batman caught him by the time he got the third wheel off. Now,
Yeah,
I think that's an amazing thing. Like the fact that a kid that's barely 11, 12 was able to jack up the Batmobile and take three wheels off. But
yeah.
I I am curious whether or not they would bring in Jason Todd because
I
we've
hope
seen
so.
so well, we've seen so very few versions of Robin in any incarnation over the years. Like we've had two versions of Robin through the Titans TV series, which is Dick
Yeah,
Grayson and Jason Todd. And then we had a weird amalgamation in the Christian Bale version that just somehow had the surname Robin, and that was about it. But this,
oh yeah, just like throw him in there because his name's Robin. Coincidence.
but like, it had so much potential to bring in the idea of Robin, but like, he was just a cop. Like, I understand there's a lot of training involved when you become a cop,
Yes,
but
but
there's
it's a bit far away
nowhere
from
near.
but it's a bit far away from the Flying Graysons, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's also the fact that there's nowhere near as much as training compared to Batman. Like, he wasn't even trained by Batman at all in the film. Like, at least with the
Right.
Robins, they actually get trained by Batman to be, like, a counterpart to him.
Yeah, except like I mean that kind of like what's he gonna do?
He just probably has, like, a police baton and just throws it at people and hope the best. Or
Or
maybe
just paints
maybe
his
he has
eyes
Bat
like black
Mace.
makeup or something.
Maybe it's like the 60s Batman where he's got like a random utility belt that just has all random things and it's just different
Yeah,
labeled
like
mace.
grappling hook and
Yes. But I think it would be a refreshing change to bring in Robin as an actual kid this time instead of it being an adult. Like, at least
yeah,
if it was
because
a young teenager, it would be something interesting.
yeah, because you were saying to me about like whether you asked me the question like would I introduce like Robin in like this film or maybe films afterwards? But personally, I just like introducing Robin too soon as like a fully fleshed out like character. Like it just doesn't seem. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It seems like too soon, like too much.
To sort of, yeah. I mean, you could easily bring in the idea of Robin, say, towards the end of the movie, like the last 10, 15 minutes, where the
Oh yeah,
main
yeah,
bad guy thing's over with. And then you could have like the second movie where you have Batman working with Robin, training him up, and then have his potential death by the end of that movie. Third movie,
yeah.
you could have like someone completely different whatsoever, no Robin whatsoever. But by the end of that third movie, you'd have like an end credit scene where you see Talia al Ghul resurrecting Jason Todd because of
Oh yeah,
no,
yeah,
to basically, I don't know, make some amends with Bruce or something to try and show that she cares. But the procedure goes wrong and ends up creating the Red Hood, which you could easily have as like a completely separate movie along the way, as like a sort of anti-hero type thing, because that's what Red Hood is. He's not a
yeah,
vigilante, he's just a, well, completely bonkers person that's obsessed with crowbars, which is fair enough because that's how the Joker kills him, but that's kind of the point.
yeah. I know.
But I'd also say that while I do understand, of course, this is going to be a comic book movie, I'd like to see a bit more based on Batman's actual detective skills than it just
Like
being a
like
guy dressed in.
just for being more real world, more realistic.
Yes, because we kind of got that within the first version. Well, the first
It
film
was
with
kind of
Christian
touched
Bale.
on in Batman Begins and throughout. It
Yes,
was touched on with the whole like gangs and the whole like police corruption and that kind of stuff.
but midway through, it just suddenly just went very randomly off to the comic book side, and I understand like it's a comic book movie, but like,
Yeah, but even for a comic book movie, that's quite a diversion, isn't it?
yes, I mean, the thing is, like, a lot of people don't realize how heavy into the Batman mythos the whole gangsters were originally. That
Yeah,
was the whole point of Batman. He wasn't up against like these random things like Killer Croc and a guy
no,
that
no,
was the Joker or whatever. Like, there was meant to be some sort of crime to it. It's like he is the world's greatest detective, and yet we've not seen that for so long.
no,
Like, it wasn't even touched on in the Christian Bale movies, and it's not even touched on in Ben Affleck's ones at all.
no.
Like,
Well,
all he,
mind you, just focusing on Batman, Superman.
I mean, that movie was a mess in itself, but
Oh God, I hated it. I hated
that's
it.
that's sort of a discussion for another day. I mean,
That's a rant in itself.
the thing is, like, I don't know if you find it a bit of a cop out, but when it came to the Dark Knight saga, where he finds out Joe Chill doesn't get sentenced because of the murder of his parents, that he ends up being shot dead on the staircase by some random sniper, which I think it was linked to the mob, and that was it. Like, there was nothing else to it.
Yeah, wait a minute. In Batman Begins, he was shot by that random woman that turned up.
Someone, because the thing is, from what I remember, Bruce was going up the stairs with a gun in his hand, trying to kill him himself, which in itself I really don't like because Batman's against guns because of Joe Chill.
Of course.
Like, that I that bugged me so much, that scene, because it's like,
And then it's just like when you had that woman run up to him, just shoot him in the chest, going Falcone says, "I bang," shoots him
yeah,
dead. I was like, "Where do we get here? Is that
yeah,
it?"
yeah, yeah. Like, if anything, it should have. I don't know, because I still can't fathom how in that series of movies how he then ends up becoming the Batman. Because the whole reason he becomes Batman is so that his first encounter, I think, is with Joe Chill. At least it was in the animated series when he
I mean,
becomes the Batman.
like, because the whole thing with like guns, that's why it's a little bit. It's a cool look, but it's puzzling with the whole logo emblem.
Yeah, see,
It's a bit puzzling
I don't understand how someone went and thought, well, if I chop a gun perfectly in half, it can sort of look like a bat. Like,
because
that,
because
that doesn't
obviously
work.
obviously you've seen the video, and like if anybody who's subscribed to Foodcraft watching it, a video I did about the Batsuit, about the new one, and it's just when you see like it looks like the handles in the center, and then it looks like it's either been bent or like molded in some way, but it's just looks wise, it looks excellent. It looks cool. But realistically and practically, no, it doesn't.
No, the thing I said to you was the fact that,
And plus, the whole symbolism with the guns doesn't make much sense either.
well, like I said to you, is like, what happens if someone decided to shoot him in that area? Like, that's where his chest is, his heart. Guns aren't unbreakable. Like, they prove that by splicing it in half. So if someone were to shoot him, it would disintegrate and it would end up going shrapnel into his heart, thus being killed by the same frigging gun that his parents got killed with, which is, I don't know what, dramatic irony or just twisted?
I don't know, twisted irony.
Mm.
That's the only thing I could think of. But yeah, it's just like the whole thing with Joe Chill. Just because I remember we spoke about this, which we were going to do a video on this. Not sure, we might do later on in future. But when we were talking about how like we would have wrote Batman Begins with the whole thing of Joe Chill, whereas I would have kept Joe Chill around for a good portion of the film if I had my
Yeah,
way with it.
I mean, the thing is, like, he's the whole reason why Batman is Batman. Like,
It just seemed like, and it just kind of like it was skipped over, just going, oh, there's just this random dude who killed a rich kid's parents and now he's dead.
yeah.
You know, I would have had it like this. The whole symbolism, like symbolism with Batman, is so important, especially with storytelling.
Well, it's like, there was a cartoon series of the Batman years ago called Batman the Brave and the Bold. It was all set in, like, the very early on style of Batman where he was blue and grey. And the
Yeah,
very last episode was absolutely amazing because he basically comes up to Joe Chill, who's an old man now, and he's still working for the mob, but he's like higher up. And he basically finds out, like, Batman finds him out, and he says, like, "You're the reason why I am who I am. You created me." And he reveals himself. And that Joe Chill's like, "Oh shoot, like, oh my god, I created the Batman." So he goes running off to the, like, all the villains that Batman's been fighting over the entire series. And he goes, "Hey guys, do you remember that job I did years ago where I whacked those rich people? Well, the kid turns out to be Batman." And all the villains turn over and go, "So you're the reason why Batman exists." And they kick the living crap out of him. And Batman
I
just
would have
watches.
absolutely adored seeing that scene.
But, like, this is the point. Like, people forget how pinnacle Joe Chill is. Like, yes, I
Yeah,
know he's not been used very much, but, like, you could easily write
but especially
anything.
like even in this film, I am hoping we see more of Joe Chill and more of a story with Joe Chill.
Yes, I mean, you could easily have it like he could have done. He could have been recruited by the mob and told that he had to rob these people to be initiated or something,
Yeah,
and that he climbs the ranks, and then Batman's following him over the years to the point where he can actually do something about it.
yeah.
But
But
the
then you're
other
gonna get
thing,
into the whole thing that you got like Batman's rules, which like Batman will not kill. So
yes,
maybe are you gonna toy with like the idea of maybe that there is a possibility where you go, oh, like are DC gonna go against that rule with Joe Chill in this film? Maybe that depends if he is having an
see,
arc in this.
I could see the idea that Batman gets hold of him and he's beating the crap out of him, and it gets to the point where they're so black and blue that there's only one thing left, and it's a gun. Batman grabs it, and he's just about to point over the top of his head, and realizes that no, like this wouldn't be what his parents want. It could
Or
be like
maybe
a
you could,
voiceover thing with
like maybe in the film you could have like the gun go off, but as it pulls out, like he actually just shot him just by the side of the head. Like didn't hit him,
yes,
and just decided he was not going to kill him after all.
yes, and then you
Because
could have
after
it
all,
just
like just
like
kind of saying like this isn't going to bring my parents back.
yeah. I mean, you could easily have like a voiceover thing of his parents telling him that there's always more than one way to deal with things, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But going back to the gangster thing, I'd also have little nod to a character that I find really interesting, but very, very strange as well, which is Cyrus Gold, who becomes Solomon Grundy.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
the whole point of Cyrus Gold was I think he was meant to be some sort of enforcer for one of the gangs. He might have been someone that I think took like all people's monies to the gangs or whatever to like do what they need to do.
Yeah.
But from what I remember in his origin, he gets greedy with the amount of gold, and he ends up like sinking in one of the like swampy parts of Gotham, and then he ends up being somehow transformed into Solomon Grundy. Now, Solomon Grundy is essentially DC's version of Hulk. Like that's from what
Yeah.
I can gather, but it's a very odd concept as well because it's more the like mystical version than it is a science experiment gone wrong.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't sort of show off Solomon Grundy fully, but you could always have the potential of it, like as a side note, like a random massive grey hand digging out of his like plot where he came out of at the end of the
You,
film.
you could even just leave that as an end credit scene as well.
Exactly. Like it's all these little nods that people forget about Batman and the whole mythos that they just shuffle off. Like they've all been so invested in the idea that every single one of his villains is clinically insane when they're not. I mean, the only one that I would technically say is clinically insane is the Joker. But
Joker.
they say in the comics that he's not actually insane. He's got something called super sanity. Like he's aware of what he is. It's kind of like the whole Deadpool thing where he knows he's a comic book character, so he therefore doesn't
Does he
see
kind
all
of
the
like
like stuff.
maybe see like seeing himself in what's the term, third person, maybe?
Well, he just doesn't see everyone around him and everything he does as like an actual cause and effect. He doesn't think anything he does affects anything because they don't actually exist.
Yeah.
But the other thing as well, I just had a really wicked thought, is like it would be absolutely weird but absolutely amazing to have the ventriloquist as one of Batman's enemies in the film as like part of the gangs.
Ah, yeah, forgot about that.
Because like you could, I mean, you could have like a really dark silhouette scene like throughout the majority of it. It's like this big mobster guy, like everyone's scared of. You don't see who it is, and the perfect voice for it. And I know it sounds bad, Danny DeVito. Like of, like you could imagine like a sort of.
I'm just trying to picture Danny DeVito's voice.
Well, it's like you could imagine like this like really serious mobster that's voiced by Danny DeVito, and it's like a really dark, gruffly mobster sort of voice, like "What'd you say to me?" sort of thing. Like it's sort of so threatening that everybody's scared. You don't see much of it, and then Batman comes along and finds like the guy in a room, like the guy that operates the ventriloquist doll, but just on his own. You don't see the doll first, and the
Yeah,
Batman thinks, "Oh, maybe he's a hostage," so he tries to save him, and then all of a sudden, like the dummy comes up and he's got a Tommy gun and he tries to shoot Batman. Like
yeah,
it
yeah.
sounds odd, but that I'd love to see that because it would throw people out.
Another
And
thing I'd
it's
love, yeah,
sorry,
another
go
thing
on.
I'd love to see. Another thing I'd love to see is I am really desperate. We still ain't got it yet, but I am desperate for just a cameo of Jack Nicholson.
What would you have him as like the Joker of
I don't know if
sorts?
I'd have him in a big-ish role, maybe a smaller one, but I'm not sure. I just want a Jack Nicholson cameo so badly.
Hmm. I mean, it could work, but I just don't know how you would fit him in because a lot of people keep thinking that the Walking Phoenix Joker is going to be Batman's Joker, but people forget he's not actually the Joker. He's the guy that's supposed to inspire the Joker. Like that's what a lot of people think keep forgetting about the movie.
That's
Is
what a lot
like
of people got wrong about
yes,
the Joker film.
and I think the problem is it never helps the fact that we've never had a full definitive origin of the Joker. Like there's been so many different ideas over the years that it's hard to keep track.
Well, it's just there is that video which I sent to you to watch about like weeks ago, and I'll link it down below as well
Mm,
after that we've put this on YouTube and everything. I'll link it. I think it's on What Culture Movies. I'm not sure What Culture Films, but it's a video of about 8 possible origins of the Joker, and like a few of
yes.
them are just nonsense to me, but quite a lot of them are actually quite amazing. That there's even like one of the most crazy ones which I saw, which was that the possibility that he's actually got severe PTSD and
Mm,
so on from being an old war soldier.
mm.
That was one of the craziest ones I heard.
Well, I think that was the for the Dark Knight trilogy was that he was supposed to have had PTSD from war of some sort, which I kind of get because the whole point of the Joker was the fact that he had unbelievable strategy for someone that was just so
Yes,
maniacally
and plus
psychotic.
and he's always very tactical as well, which
Yes,
it does hold a bit of weight.
but at the same point, like in my opinion, that's not how the Joker works. Like the Joker doesn't plan everything; he just goes on a whim and just creates mass murder.
Yeah, just throw something out and just see if it sticks.
Yeah, pretty much. But I just, I am hoping that we do have some other things added to the Batman mythos. Whether we get more than one movie, I have no idea. But I think they've also cast somebody as Catwoman. I can't remember who they cast now because there's
Oh,
such.
isn't she? She have a series of some kind. I cannot remember.
I'll have to
Oh, what she
research it.
is? I don't remember. I really
But
don't remember.
I like the idea of bringing in Catwoman a bit earlier.
But
But
do you? But would you? But only thing is, would you portray Catwoman in the ways that she should be as a jewel thief?
I would start her off as that. But I wouldn't have her in Catwoman outfit straight away. I
I
would
mean,
have it
because
so
I mean, I could be wrong because my memory's not as good as yours, but like wasn't the I think I can't remember, was the original Catwoman just like a basically a lady in just like regular clothing, just with a little kitty mask?
it was I think it was she was wearing a purple dress or something because the original Catwoman
Yes.
colors was that she was purple and green. I don't know
Yeah.
how that transformed into a cat because I've never known a cat to be purple and green, but the original Catwoman was that she had a cattish mask and it was a purple dress and a green glove. It was
Yeah.
either green like long gloves or something along those lines. But
But
it
I
was
mean, how
very
would you? But like, how would you want to place like Catwoman in this film? If How would you want to place her?
see. I would start off with the idea that Bruce Wayne had to attend some sort of fundraiser, which he's trying to use to trap someone from the mob because, of course, the mob's interested in funds and trying to dwindle people out of money, whatever. But you'd have Catwoman sulking around, like pickpocketing random people while she's dressed up very lovely.
Yeah.
And through either the fact that Bruce is such a great detective or just the fact that he is so savvy at knowing when someone's pickpocketing because it's Batman, like that, it's
Yeah.
Batman. Like he then tries to track her down because she's so good at sulking away and not being seen. Like he spends his time trying to track her down.
Yeah.
And so over the course of the movie, like you eventually see her in the proper cat outfit. Maybe they have a scuffle or two, and he tries to convince her that there's a better way, and she tries to brush it off. And at one point, they have to team up briefly to go against the mob.
Yeah.
And so from that point, it would be you could have like the weird relationship that they have because it's always on and off. Like she's sometimes a good guy, sometimes a bad guy, depending on who writes it, depending on what her motives are. Like you could have it so like it's not a definitive bad person, but it's not a definitive good person.
Yeah.
So then it could easily spiral into something later on down the like down in the future movies that she could be a very good character that Batman works with, or a very bad person. Like it's either or.
Yeah.
Because, like I say, Catwoman and Batman's relationship is a very odd relationship, but over the
Yeah.
years
Very
they
much.
have tried to make it work, and I think now they are trying to patch it back up again because they tried to get married, it didn't work. I think they are married now, but I can't remember.
No, I don't remember either. Oh yeah, you were saying about like the purple. I got a purple cat,
Oh God.
and I got the other one. She's asleep right now. But in case you haven't seen the cat, she let anybody watching. She's like brownish, black, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we got like a rough idea of maybe what happens in these movies. Excuse me. Excuse me, I shouldn't be drinking fizzy pop. Um, so we got a rough idea of what's happened in the movies.
yeah.
I'm trying to think. Let me just go through my notes again because every time I try and check it, someone sends me a flipping message. Right, do that. Um, I'm trying to think. What else can we add to this? I mean, so like I say, we could have like the first movie, the idea of the ventriloquist. You're right there.
Yeah, sorry, it's just there was a bit of an.
So we could have the ventriloquist as like the big bad for the first movie. Second movie, I would possibly bring in. Oh, hang on, guys. Sorry about that. We got someone on Twitch just messaged us. Hello, Popcorn Girl. We are talking about the Batman movie that's got Robert Pattinson in. So, if you got any ideas of what you want to add to it, go ahead. I mean, we're just ranting at the moment, but yeah, like we're
But
just trying.
there's something which I just wanted to inject in here. You know that they show like the whole origin of Batman, you know, which I like the way they did it with like Christian Bale, with like the fear of bats and everything falling down the well and so
Hmm.
on. But like, how would you like try and start this film off? Like, where is like the origin of Robert Pattinson's Batman? Like, how would you start that off, Ben?
I mean, you'd have to bring in bats in some way. I mean, I would do it slightly different in that if you remember in the animated series, Batman sees a bat that's stuck behind a panel in his study or whatever it is. That leads
Yeah,
him into the cave, and that makes it into the Bat Cave.
yeah.
I would have to say that would be a better way of bringing it in. That it's not that Bruce was afraid of bats, but it was bats that was there, and it gave him the idea that it's quite a common idea of fear of something.
Yeah, so it's kind of like more like kind of about curiosity in a way.
Yes,
Right.
because while I admit that obviously Batman's all about fear, we've seen that used so many times now that I don't think the tactics they've used so far have been that scary.
Not
But
really. I mean, you've had like what? A few smoke bombs, some trickery of lights,
well, it's
you
like the
know?
whole point of Batman is the fact that he's able to be coming in and out of shadows. He's meant to be able to agile. He's meant to outdo everyone else in such a quickness that it makes people scared and panic.
Yeah, which like you kind of when yeah, Christopher Nolan, who it was Christopher Nolan, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah. It's just like I like the way they kind of like portrayed like the way they did the fight scenes in Batman Begins, like because they really
yes,
wanted to like put over the fact that he's fast and he's agile and so on, which is why you had all those different cuts. Which you had so many cuts, like not even a full second worth of
no.
cuts, like in the fight scenes when they're in the docks, which is stuff like that I really like.
See, going back to the Christian Nolan first version of Batman, one thing I just realized. Why
What?
the hell didn't Batman take Ra's al Ghul's fear toxin stuff to use in his weaponry? Because that would have solved like half the crime in Gotham in like a day. Like, if he, because if the Scarecrow can put it into canisters, why couldn't he have done it? He could have easily have just dropped it into like all the crime-ridden stuff. Yes, he is basically American Ninja. So I'm just reading the comment that Popcorn Girls just put. Yeah, I mean, Batman is, but kind of more to it. He's more of an assassin than he is a ninja. But like the whole thing about the fear toxin, it was a great idea because it taught Bruce to embrace the fear and thus becoming Batman.
Yeah, but like I just love that little scene with Scarecrow when when he gives like Crane like some of his own some of his own
Yes.
toxin. You see like I'm not sure what to call it, Demon Batman. You see like Demon Batman. I love the way that was done. That was
Yes.
legitimately quite scary.
That was amazing. Like that was an amazing scene.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I think the fact that Batman is I am Batman. Like like so what's your point? Like I am Batman.
Change the voice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's not even that. It's just like I could easily say I am Ben. Like that doesn't make me scary or fearful. It doesn't make someone like run away from me.
It's going, hi, I'm Jack, I'm fit from boot camp.
Sounds like
It
Arlen
doesn't
Carr.
work.
But like,
I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. I'm sorry.
I mean, the thing is, it's like, what is the point of Batman besides the fear? He's meant to be like the answer to why Gotham doesn't have much of a crime solving rate because the cops don't do their jobs.
And plus, like the cops, like it's plus with like cops as well. It's like it's no longer there's no fear of like being arrested or anything like that. So whereas like they're no longer a deterrent. So like Batman's got to basically make himself his own deterrent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just had a random thought. Uh, you don't know DC Comics as well as I do, but within DC, you have quite a few different vigilantes. There's one guy in it called The Question, who basically looks like a 1950s PI, and he's got a special mask so you can't see his facial features. I would love the idea of The Question coming into Gotham to try and track down the mystery of the Batman. Because the whole
Ah,
point of The Question is like he's into all these conspiracy theories.
no, that's
Like,
interesting. Actually, I
like you
never
could
thought of that.
like I love the idea of bringing in The Question, and it'd be like so because he almost looks like Rorschach from Watchman or Watchmen,
Yeah,
sorry. But like you could have it as like first off, like people just nudge him off as like some crazy hobo, but he ends up being like a really capable fighter that Batman's trying to take out because he thinks he's a bad guy, and so does The Question. To the point where they realize, hang on a minute, we're on the same side, and they take down the mob together.
yeah,
That would be amazing. Like just as a random because I've never seen a live adaptation of The Question. Like he was in Justice League animated. That was it. Like
yeah,
the only he was brought in Justice League Unlimited, and he was basically brought in to explain that there was actually cloning going on with Supergirl, who ended up becoming like Power Girl, which was a really cool conspiracy thing because
yeah, yeah,
nobody else believed him. The only person the entire Justice League believed in was Batman. Like he tried to explain to everyone, it's like, yeah, yeah, you got your own theories, just shuffle on. Like by the end of
yeah.
the like episode, I'm sure Batman is just like, yeah, that's fair enough. But I don't know if you would have it, but for me personally, I'd love to have the guy that voiced the 90s version of Batman in as a cameo, Kevin Conroy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like it would be like as a random cameo, it's like I don't know, you could have him as towards the end of the film where people were like accepting the idea of Batman, you could have him do like a radio show of Batman, and you could have the voice of the Batman from the 90s, like, I am justice, I am the night, I am Batman, and then you'd have the actual Batman swing across the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that gives me chills. Like I literally got chills at the minute from that idea, but keep nudging the mic.
It's just like kind of keep it like real world, but why not just like nerd out a bit more? Just
Yeah,
go a little
exactly.
bit
Like,
crazy. I'm not talking like Batman Forever crazy or
oh
anything like
god,
that.
no, no, bad nipples.
Yeah, why? I'm still angry about that.
I, I mean, that entire saga of films was hilarious. When we did that cringe compilation, that was amazing because I still love the fact that there was a Batman credit card. Like, the thing is, with going on the tangent, the logic of that, right? Obviously, like, if you were to use it anywhere, it would have to backtrack. Right, sorry,
It
just got this.
backtracks to Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's not enough logic in computing to hide who it was that pays for everything.
No.
Um, but yeah, I mean, all I can say about this idea, whether or not we get much out of this film with Robert Pattinson, I just hope that we get something different to everything else we've seen so far.
Well, it's just like there's a newish kind of film which Robert Pattinson's done recently with William Dafoe, which is all in black and white. I
Hmm.
cannot remember for the life of me what the film's called, but it's based in a lighthouse. And it's where he plays like a much more gruff character. He's got a beard and so on.
Hmm.
And it's just like as of recently, I kind of feel like he's kind of breaking out of that, because he had the piss ripped out of him for ages after Twilight, the
Well,
sparkly vampire. But like I want to see him really just like break out of that Twilight thing and just leave it in the past and just go on to go, no, he's a proper legitimate actor.
I mean, the thing is, I'm pretty sure that he actually has decent acting potential.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
the fact that the idea of Twilight was just a terrible,
I
terrible
hate, I
idea.
hate, hate those films.
But I'm trying to think, like, would you bring in the Joker at all when it came to this saga of films, or would you leave it?
I'd leave it. I would not bring him in the first film at all.
Mm.
I'm not even sure if I'd bring him in the second.
I mean, I would also, as another random villain, if we had like enough films to do it, bring in Hugo Strange.
Yeah, yeah,
Because technically, if you think about it, with the Christian Nolan verse, Scarecrow took on the idea of uh, Hugo Strange being like the lead scientist at Arkham that was
yeah, yeah,
manipulating
yeah,
the inmates, which technically is more Hugo Strange because Scarecrow was just the guy that was just into overcoming fear. That was the whole point. Like they did that really well with Gotham. Was like his dad was obsessed with trying to overcome fear, and he ended up forcing his son, who ends up becoming Scarecrow, into it, and he ends up being so obsessed with it that he no longer fears fear at all. Like, but with Hugo Strange, I'm trying to think like who would you cast?
um,
Because they used Hugo Strange during Gotham, which was a really cool idea. But over the time that they had him, it slowly sort of spawned away from what he is.
uh, as long as it's cast right, I'm not too sure. That's a good question.
Because I don't know, you with the idea of Hugo Strange, I'd say it'd have to be someone that was older than the Batman. It wouldn't be the same age.
So we're talking like maybe 40s, early 50s.
It's like mid 40s to like early 50s at the most.
Yeah.
And
Do you know what I think would be good?
go on,
You might disagree with me on it, but I reckon it might work.
go on.
I would actually like to have I can't remember his I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but the guy who was Angel in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Because
Oh, David
he's round about the right kind of age now for a role
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
I can understand your idea on that, but then the thing is, Hugo Strange is. Let's have a look.
You just getting up on your phone now.
Yeah. So, will it work? Yes, it will.
All right, let's have a
Uh,
look. All I can see is the ring light at the minute.
Hang on. I have to send it across to you. But The thing is, like, the version of Gotham's Hugo Strange looks very similar to what he should be anyway. He's more Asian looking than he is Caucasian.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of like an Asian character of sorts that would be
Uh,
old enough, but not too old to actually, yeah. Um, I'm just trying to think. I I don't know if it could if it would work at all. And I know you're probably thinking, why am I choosing this guy, Jackie Chan? If he were to actually like shave, because thing is like Hugo Strange, as I say, is meant to be Asian, and if he were to like shave his head down the middle and keep the sideburns, because that's how Hugo Strange looks. He's got a beard there and he's got a bit of hair there, but nothing in the middle.
I was thinking of someone else actually. You remember the obviously cast your mind back to the Wolverine in Japan.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
yeah.
I don't know if you know what I'm on about yet.
Is it
But
the
you
guy
remember?
with the samurai suit?
I was gonna say the guy who played oh, what's her freaking Manako. Yeah,
Mm.
I was thinking of her father, or
Yeah, the guy with the
possibly,
samurai suit.
or possibly the guy who played the boyfriend. Because
No, I would go for the guy
he's
that
been
had
in a
the.
lot. He's been in a lot of samurai films had a had a bit of and had like a really small cameo in Avengers Endgame when he's fighting Hawkeye in Japan.
Mm. Um,
Do you
no,
remember who
I
I'm on
would.
about now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'd go for the guy that ended up with that was in the hospital bed, the one that Wolverine saved, that ended up being the bad guy with the samurai suit. I think that would be a bit more of an interesting idea because he's an older character, but
Yeah,
that's just me. Um, but I don't know.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. It's only brain mashing. There's not a lot to go on.
the thing is with Hugo Strange is like you could have it with the idea that you have all these like low level people that seem to have like gone insane from the idea of being traumatized by seeing Batman or something, which ends up having Hugo Strange experiment on them and end up trying to track down the Batman or lure him in.
Yeah, because then like if he's like trying to get information from all these people who are supposed to be seeing Batman or have had confrontations with Batman or whatever. Like
Mm,
so, like when I was playing on the PS2. Yeah, yeah, all retro here in Jack's house. Yeah, on the PS2, I was playing Batman Begins, and when I love like the things which they only had it very briefly in Batman Begins and a few other films. But I like the when you have all these henchmen when they're talking about Batman, and all throughout the game they're talking about the mental things that Batman can do. You know, when you
mm,
go, I heard he can fly. I heard he sucks blood. I heard he like
yes.
pulls the bones out. You know, all these crazy things. I would just love to hear like all those kind of bits. I know it's a
Yeah.
really little thing in the film, but I really want to see more of that. Like thinking, I heard he can fly. I heard he sucks blood. I heard he has a nest on top of the Empire State Building or something. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think. Like, I'm trying to think what else we can try and add to this because, as we've said already, like there's
It's
so
difficult because there's not a lot to go on.
no. Had none of this gubbins going on in the world at the moment happened, we'd have so much more stuff to work on to try and talk about. But
I mean, we've had a few of the stunt footage of the stuntman in the batsuit falling off the bike.
yeah,
Which, if you look carefully in that scene, I'm pretty sure it's set in the cemetery. I think so. I'm
yes,
guessing there's going to be some kind of scene involving like Batman maybe going to see his parents' headstones. I'm assuming maybe some
well,
kind of fight or battle there, but that's
it
just my guess, just from looking at the footage.
it would be interesting to have that, but then, for unless I'm remembering wrong, more often than not, the Martha and Thomas Wayne are normally plotted on the Wayne family manor. Like they actually have their graves there, not in a public grave.
Yeah, because when I was watching that, I was trying to think, what reason would they have for setting the scene there? I was just thinking of stuff.
I mean, you could easily have it that maybe either some gangs are trying to hide stuff in a grave site somewhere because they know that some family got a funeral coming up, so they want to ambush them so they could have like random caskets full of machine weapons or whatever. Like you could have like a full-on sort of like say hello to my little friend sort of moment, and sort of
Yeah,
end up having Batman turn up and being like, sod that, and throw batarangs at everybody, and everyone's like, ah, shit.
yeah, yeah. So, here he comes to wreck my day.
I mean, there's so many little Easter eggs they could easily add to the film. Like you could have either towards the end of the film, or maybe it's like the very first time he suits up. You could have a reworking of the original theme tune from the '90s cartoon show.
Yeah.
Like some because like you could have the dramatic music but make it a bit more modernized in some way, but have like the same melody, if that makes sense.
What do you mean? The whole bu 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 bu?
No, not that. No, that's like the '60s one. I mean like
Oh,
the
that would be quite fun
the
though.
ori- I mean like the '90s Batman theme tune. Where are we?
Yeah, just don't play it though, because it's copyright.
That's very true. But you know, like the du-du-du-du-du,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but like you could have that in some way as a little Easter egg. I'm just trying to think what else to add. I mean,
I mean,
you
obviously, like you have the option of like cameos from like past Batman characters. Like
mm,
even I've only just thought this, having Mark Hamill do a cameo. So obviously he's the most like was like
yeah.
the most popular Joker.
But how would you do it? I mean, would you just have like the maniacal
I would
laughing?
honestly just have it as a passing thing. Like honestly, I wouldn't have him very much in it. I'd just have it just be a passing moment, but something just very satisfying.
Mm.
Like even have him like I'm not sure. Like me, maybe even on the streets, like entertaining kids, like dressed up as not the Joker, but dressed up as a clown and doing the whole Joker voice.
Well, you
Just
could have
something
it
just like
like
just something just taking the mick out of it, but have it
you
be
could have
something
him
that's a
like
cool little
dress up
Easter.
in like the Joker suit that his character was known for, with the big purple like tuxedo and the green tie and the dark
Yeah.
green hair. No, I just had an even better idea. He could
What?
be like a kids' TV like clown, like as a
Or
TV
kids
show,
like
and it could
or
be on
maybe a
TV
TV presenter or
sets.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like doing the whole Joker voice as well.
Yes. Yes.
Obviously, don't say that's the Joker, but just have it be a really fun Easter egg. Going, oh my god, it's the
Exactly.
Joker
And you could just
voice.
like you could have the camera pan past all the TVs, and you just hear like the well-known Joker laugh, like the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like just as a little nod to that. But going back to the mobsters thing, I just realised of another character that they could easily hint towards is the Huntress. So
Yes, yeah.
because she is one of the I swear she's either the daughter or the niece to one of the main mobsters. She's not Falcone,
Um,
she's the Malone family. I'm sure she is.
or she,
So you could
I
have the
don't know.
idea that her and her fiance are out just one day. Her fiance gets gunned down by the Falcone family because she's trying to leave Gotham for good. She doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And because she knows that Batman exists, she gets miffed off because Batman didn't do anything about it. Like he left it too late.
Mm.
So then you could have the Huntress. Now I wouldn't have it in like the full-on original outfit because that's just a bit too much for.
Yeah.
Uh, but you'd have like some sort of reworking of it in a sense. Like you could have a dark purple body armor suit for women's style, and
Mm.
everything else in between. And then you could lead into the idea like there's Batman, and then there's the Huntress, and the Huntress is a lot more extreme than Batman,
Yeah.
which then leads into him trying to confrontate her in some way.
Yeah. Ooh,
I
shit.
there's so much potential just on the mobsters alone. Like this is why it's so much better, I think, to focus on that than
Yes.
to just go straight into the whole sci-fi and comic booky side of things. Because like
But why not? Why not? Just let's get a different perspective.
Well, it's like he's meant to be the world's greatest detective, so why haven't we seen him actually be a detective? Like that's the one thing that's been missing so much from all these movies that we've seen. And whether or not it would end up being something more, who knows? But I don't know if it
Yeah.
ends up
Well,
being that Pattinson becomes the Batman before Affleck's, or whether he is a whole new Batman. Who knows?
who knows? We'll just have to wait and see, like all of you.
Sorry, I had to put the fan on because my laptop's overheating.
Yeah, well, like I said, we'll just have to wait and see because it's not going to be out till it was meant to be out this year, but now it's not going to be out till 2021 because obviously the pandemic and so on.
Exactly. I'm trying to think. Who would you have as Jim Gordon? Because I think he would be a very important character to have in the sense of working with Batman.
It depends, like when he's going to feature in the film, like what age, really.
I mean, the thing is, Gordon always is older than Batman anyway, but it depends on how much older you'd want him.
I'd want him round about the same age as what Jim Gordon was in like Batman Begins. I want him round about that same age.
Mm.
So who would I have? I'm trying to scramble and think off the top of my head. Did you have a suggestion?
I mean, I can't really think of anyone older at the moment that would be a good Jim Gordon, but I would have to have like someone at least 10, 15 years older than Pattinson.
This might be controversial, and I know it might be a death nail. It might not be. It's a 50-50. But I think I had a casting for this guy a little while ago. But I reckon one of them might be a decent enough fit, even if it was just an audition. Jeffrey Dean Morgan from The Walking Dead.
Yeah, no, that could work. Yeah, no, I think. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think as well. Like, I wouldn't want to have Batgirl in it at any point because
No.
the whole Batman and Batgirl relationship has been a bit of an iffy one, especially with the Killing Joke. Like, I love the comic story, I like the animated movie, but it
And
is a
then
bit of an
I can't
iffy
remember
one.
which one it was. Which Batman film was it with George Clooney when you had all the cringiness of Batgirl, like and Batman and Robin? Do you remember that?
I think that's Batman and Robin because it's Batman Forever.
Yeah, because like I remember we were watching. I'm not sure if it was in the cringe
Yes,
episode.
it was.
Yeah, like when that scene was just playing over and over again, it got more cringy the more you watched it.
Mm. Trying to think.
You still trying to think of a Jim Gordon?
No, I just trying to think of like what else they could easily add to Batman as a whole, like for the movies. Because, well, like I've said already, like a few times, is we could easily do about the mobsters, but we've seen so much based on the crime and corruption of Gotham that it's a broken record.
Yeah.
And
I do just want to see a lot more focusing on like the inner workings of like the whole gangs and the corruption, like how it works. I really want to see a lot more of that.
yeah, but I'd also add in, as a very random tangent, maybe the idea of Hush. So Hush is essentially like a very dark, twisted version of Batman that isn't actually Bruce Wayne. It's his best friend from childhood who decides to take it upon himself to prove the point that he will be the ultimate villain for Batman because he is best friends with Bruce. Like I think he's like one of the few villains that actually figured out who Batman is. There was an animated
Right, yeah.
movie that ended up screwing up the entire thing and changed up who Hush was. Did you just break your tripod?
No,
I just heard a massive crack and I thought you broke your
no.
tripod.
I just lowered it down a little bit.
Ah.
I think that just like the more time goes on, the more details, and obviously when filming commences, and obviously there's going to be leaks for sure.
Oh yeah, of course.
So
But
obviously later on over time, we might do another video, might not, might do another live stream when we have some more information, then we can elaborate on things, tweak a few things.
I mean, there's always other videos that we can do live streaming on in the future. Because for the moment, we are limited by what things are coming out, which is annoying because there was supposed to be so many things coming out this year, and now everything's delayed, which is a bit cack-handed because it means that we got to wait a lot longer. But hopefully, we can have some sort of idea in the future as to what else is coming out and anything else at all. But
yeah, and then obviously, then we'll like bash heads again. Like when we message, we'll probably message each other in a minute.
Yeah,
and come with some ideas for the next one as well. Or if anybody has any suggestions, as always, please put them down below in the comments or reach out to us through social media.
exactly. So well said, Jack. Well said, me. Anyway, we have finally got hold of a live stream that actually works.
Hang on a minute. Which side are you?
No, hang on, wrong side. But yeah, this has been the first successful live stream that we've done via Twitch. It's not often we do this because we've had to twiddle with what we can.
And
Hopefully,
plus, it's taken us 3 goes to get this one.
This is mostly down to him eating too much tinfoil and creating static on his phone.
Yeah, he's convinced I'm eating tinfoil just because whenever I do this, whenever anything is set up to do with filming or anything for Theorycraft, it's all working fine. But as soon as I'm involved, it all screws up.
Yep, pretty much. But this has been almost an hour's worth of umming and ahhing and ranting and raving about Batman. So
we actually got more in than I thought we would.
Yeah, I mean, it's been nice that we've had one person watch us. Thank you very much, Popcorn Girl. Anybody that watches us in the future,
and obviously more later on YouTube.
Exactly. But thank you ever so much for joining us, and for anybody that watches us in future, nice to meet you, and we will be keeping our posts up as much as we can. So everyone, stay safe, and we will see you in the future. Bye.
And see you in the comments. Bye.